Finally got it working. One location running clean. Numbers are hitting. Your team knows the playbook. Leadership is happy. And now they want to open 3 more. So you start thinking about who you need to run this thing, and your gut says, find someone steady, someone who will maintain what you've built, someone who won't come in and blow everything up. Stop right there. Because that instinct, as logical as it feels, is about to cost you the expansion. The leader who maintains a working operation is not the same person who grows one. And if you don't know the difference, you'll hire the wrong one. You'll watch your growth timeline slip 6 months and you won't understand why, because on paper, they looked exactly right. And the tricky part, on paper, these people can all look incredible. And I'm going to show you how to tell them apart. I'm Renee Fry, and this is Building Your High-Performing Team, where we help you hire smarter, reduce turnover, and drive business results so you can finally sleep at night. If you want proven strategies to hire better and build teams that last, hit subscribe. We drop new insights every week. You know what I see over and over again? A company that has a great, stable operation, proven model, strong culture, solid margins, and they get the green light to grow. So they go try to find a senior ops leader, someone with a big resume, long track record, and a reputation for running tight ships. And that person comes in and runs a very tight ship. They protect the existing operation, they stabilize every wobble, they make sure nothing breaks. And 6 months later, the board is asking why they've opened 0 new locations. I was talking with the VP of operations recently at a regional food manufacturing company. They had done exactly this. Hired a brilliant operations leader, 15 years of experience, really impressive career. He'd run a 4-plant operation. He knew the metrics cold. Best shift supervisor utilization I've ever heard someone talk about in an interview. 6 months in, their one location was running better than it had ever had, and they only had one location. The leader they hired was built to protect and refine. They needed someone to build to replicate. Those are different skills, and they live inside different people, and you can't tell them apart on a resume. Now, let me walk you through how I think about this, what you're actually looking for, and how you can interview for it. The biggest mistake is not knowing what you're hiring for in the first place. The first thing you need to get clear on is what this leader's actual job is. And I don't mean the job title, I mean the real expectation behind the role. Are you asking someone to maintain something or to replicate it? Because those 2 things require completely different wiring. The person you need for expansion, I call them a scaler. I know, you're probably thinking, what's a scaler? Is that even a real thing? It is, so stick with me. A scaler doesn't invent the model. They don't fix the model. They take the model that's already working and they run it again. They replicate it in a different building with a different team under different conditions. And they do it without letting quality slip. That's the job. And it sounds straightforward until you realize how few people are actually wired for it. Every leader who walks into a new operation has an instinct to put their fingerprint on it, right? Make an impact. Builders create, stabilizers maintain, but scalers, they have to look at an operation that's 85% right and decide if it's ready to replicate. And that's discipline. Because during rapid growth, standardization is more valuable than optimization. You don't need a better mousetrap right now. You need the same mousetrap in 5 more buildings, instinctively, without being told. When you've spent years building an operation that finally works, the emotion in the room becomes protect it at all costs. And that emotion pushes you towards a stabilizer. A stabilizer is the leader who steadies a team during turnover, holds culture together through a rough quarter, keeps quality from slipping when everything is on fire. They are phenomenal at what they do, but their entire instinct is to hold the line, not advance it. You hire a stabilizer for an expansion role, and you'll end up with a beautifully run single operation while your competitors move into the markets you should have been in 6 months ago. And you won't blame the hire immediately because the operation will look great. It'll just stop growing. Now, I want to show you 2 more versions of this mistake because there are 2 other profiles companies confuse with scalers all the time. Another profile companies confuse a scaler with is the builder. Builder and scaler can almost look identical on paper. Both action-oriented, both move fast, both talk about building things. The difference is this. A builder's instinct is to create something new. A scaler's instinct is to copy something proven and take it further. Hand a builder your working playbook and ask them to replicate it across 5 locations, and they'll start redesigning the playbook before they even open a single new site. They just can't resist it. That's not a character flaw. That's just who they are. But you don't need a new playbook. You need someone who can run the existing one in 5 more buildings. We helped a company hire a distribution center operations director a couple years ago whose company made this exact mistake. They hired a guy who started 2 operations from scratch. Brilliant. He was fast, entrepreneurial. 6 weeks in, he had completely overhauled their entire onboarding process, rebuilt the entire frontline leadership, accountability structure, and rewritten the SOPs. The existing operation was actually running worse, and they still hadn't broken ground on their second site. He wasn't wrong about the improvements. He was just the wrong person for that moment. The third mistake is hiring an optimizer. The logic here sounds airtight. We want to make sure our operations is dialed in before we scale it. So you bring in someone whose specialty is finding the next 10% of efficiency, and they find it, and then they find more, and then they want to find more after that. An optimizer in a scale role will spend months perfecting site A, while sites B through E remain untouched. They'll chase that 2% of efficiency in one location, while your competitors take the next 3 markets. And I've seen this firsthand. A logistics company in the Midwest had a strong operation and brought in an ops leader with an incredible track record of improving throughput. 18 months later, that one facility was the most optimized warehouse I'd ever heard described. Meanwhile, 2 competitors opened 4 locations in the same window. The optimizer did exactly what they were built to do. It just wasn't what the business needed. So how do you actually interview to identify a scaler? Here are 3 questions that my team uses. Tell me about a time you took an operation from one site to multiple. What issues surfaced during the expansion and how did you handle them? Now, what you're listening for is not just that they manage multiple sites, but that they grew into them. That's the critical distinction. A lot of candidates will say, I oversaw 12 sites and 400 people. Super impressive. But did they grow it from 1 to 12? Or did they inherit 12? Inheriting scale is management. Building scale is a skill. Another question, what did the operation look like when you started? What was the headcount when you arrived? If the 12 sites and 400 people were already there, that's a manager, not a scaler. A real scaler knows what broke first because they watched it break and they have scars from growth. Second question you can ask, how do you decide what to standardize across locations versus what to localize? A scaler can answer this immediately because they've had to make that call in real time under pressure while the expansion was already underway and something wasn't fitting. They'll tell you the principles travel, the context doesn't. And they'll give you a specific example. If someone can't answer this question, if they talk in generalities or they say, well, it depends. Stop there and you've got to probe deeper and ask deeper questions. You got to find out if they actually made the decisions or if they were simply around the process. The third question I recommend is describe a situation where you had to grow a team quickly without letting quality slip. The wrong answers are about systems and processes. The right answers are about judgment calls, moments where they had to decide what good enough looked like and they moved anyway. What separates a scaler is restraint. They can look at something that's 85% perfect and say, it's good enough to replicate, we'll optimize it later. That discipline, knowing when to stop improving and when to start replicating, is what separates a scaler from everyone else. You can hire too early. If the foundation isn't solid yet, if you can't explain in writing exactly why your operation works, a scaler has nothing to replicate. They'll multiply whatever is in front of them. If what's in front of them has cracks, they're going to scale with the cracks. But you can also hire too late. And too late is where most companies land because they wait until expansion feels safe, until every variable is controlled, until they're absolutely sure. And by then, the growth window has closed. The test I use is simple. Can you clearly write down why your operation works? Not how it works, why it works. If yes, you're ready to hire a scaler. If that answer to that question made you hesitate, that hesitation is worth paying attention to. Now, this is what makes this hire particularly hard. The best scalers are in the middle of growth run somewhere else. They're opening locations, building teams, hitting targets. Their resumes aren't sitting on Indeed. They haven't touched their LinkedIn in months. They have no reason to be looking because the work is exciting and the results are visible. A scaler in mid-flight doesn't look for new opportunities. They're too deep in the ones they're running. And that's what we do at Talent Q. We go find the leaders who will never see your job posts because they're too busy scaling someone else's operation right now. If you've got an expansion on the horizon and you're starting to feel like the clock is ticking on this, the link to talk with my team is in the description below. And if you're not ready for that yet, if you're still figuring out what type of leader you actually need, I got another video on the different operator profiles. So watch that one next. Because hiring the right person at the wrong time is exactly the same as hiring the wrong person. If this resonated and you found it valuable, share it with another hiring leader who's serious about building stronger teams. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We drop fresh insights every single week to help you hire smarter and lead stronger. And if you're ready to fill a critical role or strengthen your leadership pipeline, visit talentq.net, where exceptional companies meet exceptional people. I'm Renee Fry, and this has been Building Your High-Performing Team, from the recruiters who know your business. And when your team is dialed in, that's when leadership feels effortless. Cheers for now, and I'll see you in the next one.